got love guaranteed, and I have to know. Say, here are you. Hey, don't be so hard to reach.
All right, it's all yours.
Pick up your phone, tell me where you
Hi.
be.
Hi. If you really want to know what our weeks were like, check us out on Patreon. We'll be going live on Saturday,
We'll go a little bit
posting
deeper.
on Sunday, and you can hear the tea.
Some tea. It's
All right, let's start it off right with Reddit.
okay. Let's go.
My brother-in-law is the reason why my husband left me. I don't know what to do now. I, female 38, met my brother-in-law, male 38, at uni. He asked me out in our first year and I refused. He called me the C word and that I am shallow. My best friend told me that it was harmless comments from a drunken guy who got rejected. I never thought myself shallow. It was his demeanor and awkwardness that was off-putting to me. Also, if he's ugly, that's okay too.
If he's ugly, just say it, sis.
Just say it. A drunk guy's hitting on you at the bar. You don't have to like him.
You don't have to like him.
Anyway, he proved my friend right, and other than those comments, I have never felt uncomfortable during my uni years because he never bothered me again. Not even looked my way. Next time I met him, he was my baby sister, female 28, introduced me as her boyfriend. I didn't even recognize him at first because it was like 9 to 10 years since that day he talked to me. He was visibly annoyed that I didn't recognize him and called me a liar.
Great first impression.
Does anybody have brothers around that could like whoop? Like what? What village is this in?
The family. A village where they say uni. The family was skeptical at first about him, but he seemed to treat my sister right, and she seemed happy. He is very rich. Okay. Taking her all over the world, and he seemed kind with it too. They got married after a year of dating. They have 3 children.
Me describing
I'm gonna be honest and say that the marriage time when somebody meets a guy with money is so short. They're in after like 3 to 6 months.
Do you know why? It's because of stability. In our minds, it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about like.
He hasn't shown that he has any sense of responsibility to you or that he's mentally stable.
I know that people conflate money with like that.
Yeah, you must be like have your shit together if you have money.
Yes, exactly.
I met my now ex 40 years ago. Oh, my now ex male 45 years ago, and the only odd comment from my brother-in-law was that I was still as shallow and superficial as I was in uni.
Ooh.
Oof.
He's going for the win here.
Yeah.
Oof. It's giving bitter.
Any guy who doesn't care about pissing off the girl's family is fucking psychotic.
You think?
He wants to suck
Yes.
her ass.
At the time, I took it as a joke, but in hindsight, when I found out the truth and started thinking back, looking for red flags, this was probably a big one.
Yo, what was their dad like?
He never showed me any signs that he disliked my husband, and he was always decent enough, and his indifference to have a close friendship with my husband and I didn't seem odd because he was always a recluse. A year ago, my husband came home and accused me of cheating, and he had evidence. The guy contacted him, and he had nudes, etc., of me on his phone. The guy told my husband that he didn't know at first that I was married, but as soon as he found out, he contacted my now ex.
He's pretending.
He even apologized to my husband. I have never met this guy in my life. Nothing I said or did made my husband believe me. He left me, and our divorce is pending. Then yesterday, the guy contacted me. He apologized for what he did and told me that he is friends with my brother-in-law. He sent me endless conversations my brother-in-law had about me for years. He has never forgotten that I, in his words, didn't even give him a chance and only judged him by his looks. He called me C in the chat, both group chats with his friends, but mostly with this guy. They planned this attack, and my brother-in-law somehow got access to my photos. The reason this guy contacted me now is that he felt guilty because even when my marriage is over, my brother-in-law still was very angry and hateful, especially when he heard that I was on a date last weekend. So the friend felt that if he didn't help his friend but ruined innocent people's lives. What?
I don't even know.
That's hard to even unpack. That's crazy.
He's psychotic.
Why? Okay.
Not psychotic. Sorry.
First of
He's
all,
actually not psychotic.
How is she telling the truth that she has all of this proof and her husband didn't get back with her?
That's what I was just thinking.
What?
That doesn't make sense.
He wanted out, or she's lying?
You want to know? And also, this is just like very like 2D. Like, there's nothing. Like, there's not a lot of substance to this.
There's not a lot of substance.
Like, there's a lot of events. I don't feel like the's a lot of like. There's not.
There's not like details to use.
It gives like Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Have you heard of that movie? Well, it's like the psycho, like stalkerish nanny, like comes in and wants to take over someone's life. I'm not saying that he wants to take over her life, but it's like if he's this preoccupied with her sister, it's kind of weird that he ended up with the sister. Like this doesn't seem like a coincidence. This seems like psycho.
Yes.
But also, how do I really trust the word of this foul friend who went through with this anyways? I don't know. Not sure what to do. My brother-in-law has actually been happier and more sociable than usual since my divorce, and now I know why. Although first I thought he felt sorry and wanted to support me.
What?
His
Why
jokes
would she
about
think
me
that?
ended up an old maid with cats as companions didn't sound like jokes anymore. He meant them.
Why does she never sound mad at this guy? She's never not once.
If your client, okay, let me finish, then I have a
Okay.
question. I don't want to ruin my sister's life. She's very happy with her husband. I'm not sure either if I can with my husband. I'm not sure if I should tell my ex or not. I'm very heartbroken that he didn't believe me. Oh, you didn't tell him the proof yet. Okay. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Love him very much. He's the love of my life, and I'm not sure if I can forgive him for not believing me. But he's a victim in this too, so maybe he needs to know for closure. I am terribly sad and hurt. I'm sorry this post got very long.
Why would she not present proof? That's the like. Why?
To be fair to your ex-husband or
What's
your
that
ex,
monkey meme of the white monkey going like this? This is me right now. Like, what the fuck?
Well, it's because she's hurt that he didn't believe her word, but the guy had proof, supposedly. I mean, he had naked pictures of your wife.
Giving Taylor Swift AI.
I thought for sure the guy had been fucking
about
her, or
this?
whatever. Like he found someone who fucked her or something and did it that way. But it's just he stole them.
Do you know about this? People made like AI nudes of Taylor Swift, and it's like going before the Supreme Court.
Yes.
It's
Oh.
like whatever.
Wait, what? No?
Yeah, she's like suing, like to be like to get them down, and then now there's like this whole hubbub about like how dangerous AI is, and they're thinking about like sanctions on. I don't even know. It's like a huge deal, I guess.
So, first thing I'm going to say is I know that there's a huge fear as a woman telling another woman when their man sucks because they can flip on you. There's like a really good chance that they're going to not believe you. They're
more
going to
than
say you're
50-50.
jealous. It's more. It's most likely that they're going to flip on you and be negative.
Mhm.
And I think because it's your sister, it's your responsibility. It's your younger sister.
Bro, I can't
To
even
tell her the
imagine.
truth about like what you're perceiving and what you're thinking. And you can even preface it with like, I might be crazy.
Mhm.
Second thing you need to do is you need to tell your husband about what
Mhm.
happened and give him the opportunity to have a human moment.
Mhm.
Because if I got any kind of proof that you were doing something wrong, like, yeah, it said a year ago, he came home and accused me of cheating. He had evidence. The guy contacted him with nudes of me. Like, if someone had nudes of me,
I'd be
of my
turned
man,
the fuck up.
I'm just saying, like, it's not crazy that he believed it.
I'm like not convinced that she fought for this shit. I don't know why. I'm just
It's
like,
giving she doesn't want the relationship.
yeah, she wanted to.
And also stay as far away from your brother-in-law as possible or whoever he is.
Do you want to know what what the weird ass thought that just went across my brain was?
What?
Somebody in here is a cuck.
Ooh.
I don't know. I feel like it's the husband.
Is it me?
It might. It's probably you.
All right, on to the next one. We did
Okay.
our best.
We can't help you, sis.
We can't help. Well, give him the evidence unless you want him to leave you.
You need to put the cards on the table for everybody, and then walk away. Mic drop.
Also, me going between this beer and this wine is because I just can't decide.
The wine is.
It's been that kind of day.
Everything. It's been that type of day. Yeah, y'all haven't even heard our check-ins in. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so I went on Reddit and there's like a lot of different threads. There's some threads that are like, I hate my therapist and I hate therapy and therapy's stupid, like anti-therapy threads, and those are interesting and we should pull some up at some time. And there's other people who are in therapy that are like, this is weird. I don't know. So I pulled one of those up. Is my therapist experiencing transference? Just some background on my situation. I've recently come to terms with my emotional abuse and neglect that I face at the hands of my parents. I hold a lot of resentment towards them, especially because they continue to disrespect and abuse me. Sadly, I'm still living with them, but I'm trying to move out as soon as possible.
Si se puede, you can do it. Sorry.
Often when I share my situation about my parents, my therapist brings up his relationship with his own mom. The first few times he brought it up, I figured it was to build rapport and trust, but it's starting to feel weird. I wonder how he can give me good care if he keeps pulling from his own relationship with his mother. It feels as if he's using his relationship as a model for how mine should look with my mom and dad. During my most recent session, I kept saying that I want to go no contact with my parents and my sibling, how I want to get a good job and move away and not look back. I don't want to be 40 or 50 or 60 years old and still being around people that constantly put me down. I also don't feel like they deserve me in their lives. He kept saying that no contact isn't logical and a better solution would be to figure out a way to still be around them, but to not let them bother me / not care about what they think. He said that's what he does with his mom. All right, pause. Horrible therapist.
You already know what I
fired.
think. Yeah, fired.
Dub.
Fired.
Done.
I already know like, the question.
Projecting.
Yeah.
You just had a really brave, insightful moment, and even if he disagreed internally, he shouldn't have shat on it like that.
Shat on it and gave you redirection to what you should have done.
Yeah, it
That's
was like
nuts.
A good therapist is helping you figure out how to live your life in the way you want to live it. A
They're-
crappy therapist is telling you to live
Do
life in the way
this.
they should. And also, he's
Mhm.
probably personally offended that you're like,
Yes.
I don't want to be you.
Yes.
But
Yes.
fuck him. You
Fuck
don't
him.
want to be
You
him.
don't
So
wanna be
go
him.
get a therapist who has a life parallel to what you
And
want.
and also your feeling is correct about your family, most likely.
It is.
It
It's
is.
so hard to go no contact. Anytime somebody's talking about cutting off their parent in a legitimate way,
You know how
I
hard
know
it is.
it was foul.
It was foul.
I know your parent was foul.
Foul.
I don't need any proof.
Yep, exactly.
What do you guys think about is it okay for a therapist to use their personal life in your therapy?
Sometimes, yes. We talk about this often.
Sparingly.
Yes.
Very sparingly. Like
And-
it shouldn't even happen once a session. It should happen
No.
like once a month. If
If-
you were seeing them 4 times a month, it should happen maybe once a month, and it should be a 5-minute thing.
Yes.
The only reason you should be sharing personal information is because you're trying to make that other person feel safe or understood. And I feel
only
like
in real, like kind of dire, not dire, but kind of like, yeah, dire situations.
like the healthy version of this is like at one point in one session being like, I also have a difficult relationship with a parent and I understand the pull you have to still talk to them or something
Yeah.
like that.
I often will ask for permission sometimes. I'm like, can I share something with you? That, like, and if it feels like it's taking up too much, I kind of pad it a lot, especially if it's somebody I haven't done it with before.
Yeah.
And I rarely do it in like the first 3 months. I think it's different because it's outpatient, but like I really like don't want to.
I don't do it.
Yeah, I do.
Sometimes I
I've
clown
done
with
it
the
sometimes.
teens. Like I'm like, shout out to Dead Dad Club and stuff like that because I think it's funny. But
And rarely do I give like real details.
No.
I would never give details, but it's like this is something, and I'm seeing you as a human. I actually remember my therapist doing it. She's done it once. I've been working with her for 3 years. She's done it once, and it changed the trajectory of our therapy. Actually, I think.
because you felt like less shame.
Yes, exactly.
So very sparingly, but this whole like, do what I do with my mom.
No.
No. There was
Never.
a lot of bad therapists.
It's a white
out there.
therapist.
It's a lot of therapists.
It's
anyways.
a white male.
I know black therapists who do that shit too.
I understand what he's saying. He doesn't think it's plausible for me to go no contact because I have too much love for my parents. Understandable, but his delivery just felt so forceful.
Terrible.
Like I wasn't
therapist,
even allowed to
Jesus
consider
Christ.
no contact a possibility. Throughout the session, I just kept getting more and more frustrated, and I left the session feeling very unheard.
Yeah.
I just want to stop now and say this is why having a therapist who's not a good therapist is such an impact on her. But because she feels so safe because it's a therapist, because she
wants to
thinking
believe in
that
it so much.
she wants to believe in it so much that she's questioning herself and making up these really empathetic stories for this guy about how he must have the best intentions and it must be because what she's saying is.
He still gets to have an off day, like some shit like that.
Well, she's doing the whole like, well, maybe
Which
what
is
I
true.
want is unrealistic. She's questioning what her intuition was
Right.
because of this therapist.
She's recreating something with the therapist, which is nuts.
Trash. Throughout the session, I just kept getting more and more frustrated. Oh, another thing I was talking about is how I don't want to be the executor of a trust my parents are making for my brother. My brother is a huge narcissist and sadist, and he's just awful to be around. I told my therapist that when my parents pass away,
Sadist is nuts.
I want
Narcissist and sadist.
I want nothing to do with my brother. My therapist then asked me, but do you think you'll ever be able to cut him off? Yo!
This therapist isn't in therapy and like has never been in therapy.
He's projecting. What is he projecting?
Trauma.
Yeah. What's the trauma? Mommy and daddy stuff.
Yeah, and sibling shit.
You can't help that he's a narcissist and a sadist.
He asked it in a very leading way, implying I wouldn't be able to, and then implied that it's better that I at least have some power in the situation. Again, bring up his own family situation example.
Nigga, what?
Do you think this is some kind of transference?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Look
I
at
think
me. Let's say it.
Yes. Garbage. Done. Trash.
Please find a new
Throw them away.
therapist.
You're fired.
If you were to tell somebody, you know, what are some good things to look like if you're on Psychology Today, if you're on Therapy Den, if you're wherever state you are, like looking for a therapist, what are good things to look for in a therapist? Are there like postmarks you think, or like? I think that there are, but I'll keep like not every.
Like
I'm thinking of
when
specific
I'm on
ones.
Psychology Today, I look for specific licenses. So I look for the license that's a social worker or a family therapist license because they were taught to look at you and your situation, not just you.
Your relationships, your system, all that
Yes.
stuff.
I look at, and they had some kind of teaching about like the social impact of where you are.
Mhm.
Whether they're good at that or not, I can't tell you. The other thing I would say that I would look for is that they say something about trauma. They say something about wanting to work with clients because they see their strengths, like something
Cool.
strength based.
Strength space. Client-centered.
All right, last but not least. My boyfriend, 31 male, called our relationship a money pit. I'm a 25-year-old female. I'm hurt. How do I navigate this?
I'm hurt.
My boyfriend, 31 male. Welcome to the inner working of men's brains. My boyfriend, 31 male, and I, 25 female, have been together for 2 years, and I'll be honest, he makes a lot more, at least compared to me. He makes over 100K and runs 3 businesses. However, I just graduated college a year ago and struggling with college debt and other financial decisions I wish I could have been talked out of when I was a teenager, but he is an amazing man to me. He's kind, loving, patient. He is always honest, and I know he's the man I want to be with for life.
Always honest is a cue.
He's the kindest I've ever met in my life. Also 23, and you don't know anything.
Yeah, you don't know.
We live together in a small 1-bedroom apartment. He used to live with his parents, so he moved in with me, and things are great. But the last few months were rough on the wallet, and I need to ask for help financially a handful of times. You good?
Sorry.
I'm not proud of it since I hold dearly to my independence and never asked anyone for help for money ever. He's helped me reorganize my finances and seems happy in our small apartment, even if it's super small and not in the best area. The other day, his friend... Do you think he has 6 figures?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying mixed messages here.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
It's giving 25. The other day, his friend called him. His friend is unemployed, hates to work, and doesn't have a car and isn't supporting himself at all. So funny that somebody running 3 businesses who's really successful surrounds himself with losers.
Mm-hmm. And also 3 businesses to make $100,000.
I know, I was like, that. He's working his ass off. Woo! It's not, the math isn't mathing, babe.
You're being bamboozled.
The other day, his friend called him, his friend, blah, blah. I was in the car with my boyfriend, so the call was on Bluetooth speaker. And his friend was talking about how he thinks his girlfriend he's seeing may be his next girl. Thinks that this girl he's seeing may be his next girlfriend. My boyfriend told him that it's great news, but he needs to get things together before settling into a relationship. His friend asked what he meant, and my boyfriend said, "There's no such thing as romance without finance. I understand you want to be with someone, but you don't have a stable income, and most women want a man who is able to support themselves and can show signs that they take care of her also. But you got to make sure you have a stable enough job because relationships are a huge money pit, and you'll find yourself paying for them in ways you didn't expect, like dinner, some of their bills, gifts they may or may not ever use, and random stuff you'll never expect to spend it on. It's not exactly fair, but every man I know admits that. At the end of the day, a relationship can be a bill that you'll never seem to stop paying. I love my relationship, and even I'm taken by surprise sometimes, but I'm happy anyways." Quote ended. He kissed my hand, and they ended the convo.
How much she emphasizes how much she loves him is suspect to me.
Say more. I agree, but
I feel like it's as she's like, I can picture her like writing this and being like, "Oh God, this is disloyal. I better add in I love him." Like, "Oh God, this is like, but I love it here. But I love it." She's like convincing herself. Is the feeling that I get.
It is giving that. I sat there feeling a little embarrassed and humiliated. I know he didn't directly say anything about me, but ouch. Oh, he did say something about you.
Girl, that was what is that called? A subtweet?
Yeah. I asked him about it, and he said he didn't mean anything wrong by it, but if it's the impact of his words hurt me, he's sorry, and he can try to reword things next time. I asked if he thought of me as a bill, and he said, "Not you personally, but a relationship is an expense.
It's you, bitch.
You don't make money having a life partner. You spend money, and that's okay. I moved in with you because you weren't able to pay rent. My folks and I were perfectly fine living together.
Holy shit.
In his culture, you can live with your folks until you're married. But I
It's
moved
Caribbean.
in because you can't afford to pay the bills. It's a
Sorry.
bill. It was something I had to pay to help you in our relationship. If you weren't struggling. If you weren't
Same.
struggling, I can't say I would have moved in, but I'm glad we did, and I'm happy we live together. I feel wrong for being upset, but it hurt. How do I navigate this? What is the right thing to do? He grew up poor. His parents struggled, and they got financially stable. He went the business route and makes more than anyone in his family together. He never shows it off or talks about it. I just know because the topic of income came up when the leasing office asked how much he made to add to the lease.
She doesn't know what he does for work and doesn't know how much he makes? Is that what she just said?
She says she knows what he makes, and that basically he does all this stuff because his family's poor. Anyways, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You know when women just try to find things to pad in for context because they don't want to feel rejected?
Yeah.
Like they're like, I'm just going to find all the empathetic sad boy things about him, and I'm going to say that's the reason he doesn't say the thing or do the thing I like. It's actually pretty pathetic. But not her. But
Just a
women.
little bit.
Women. Not her.
You
She's
just
trying
did
to-
but women.
But women.
Not
All
you,
of them,
but
right.
all
but
of them.
relationships.
I've also done it too. It's
yeah,
like,
I've done that.
It's like when you're in a situationship and you pretend that like they were traumatized and that's why they don't want to commit to you. Wake up. Sorry.
Yeah.
Come on, pull it together. Traumatized men also want to claim the women they want, I promise.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How do you navigate this? You have an honest conversation about the fact that it hurt your feelings, and then you deal with it on your own. Because it's not his responsibility. You say that I didn't like it or whatever happened. And what the real problem in conversation is that please don't ever do anything for me again that I think you're doing because you want to, but you're actually doing it because you feel sorry for me. That makes me not trust you. That's the convo.
Because, like, what? I was perfectly happy with it. That's also a disgusting statement.
Disgusting.
I was perfect. We were perfectly happy living together. Okay, nigga, go back and live with your fucking parents. I know she doesn't want to.
No one wants to. And also, does it hurt because there's some truth to the fact that he is helping take care of you?
There is.
But my answer to this is feel your feels and be honest about how you're feeling, but you can't take back that you know it. And this is probably a truth that was plaguing your relationship, and it's kind of good it's on the table and just talk about it. Anyways, we're done with our Reddits. How are you?
Oh, God, you bitch.
I
knew
know.
She was like...
You want me to go first? I can go first.
No, I'll go. I am doing horribly today. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of shit going on. If you want to hear more about it, tune into Patreon. But yeah, I'm doing really shitty. I'm planning to go home tonight and the rest of my Chinese food. Smoke.
Love that for you.
And I think I'm going to take the day off.
I love that for you. I was waiting for that to happen. Then I'll be over Saturday with Pat.
Woo!
What do you want me to cook?
Really?
Yeah, what do you want?
Love of my life. Can I think about it? It'll probably be pasta.
I know. Pesto.
That's what I was going to ask
I know.
for, with the little chicken stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And garlic bread.
Great.
I actually have garlic bread.
But it's not my garlic bread. It's not freshly made.
One.
Yeah, the pull apart.
One?
Yep, done.
Okay, cool.
All right, ask me how I am.
Can I be extra?
Yeah.
Can we get mozzarella and tomatoes?
Yeah, you want like burrata or something?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Or do you want like the warm mozzarella?
Rachel, I know you're relaxing, but can you speak into the mic a little bit? Yeah, sorry.
I leaned back because I actually thought I was screaming.
You weren't.
Okay, cool.
All right.
How are you?
Okay, so I was doing really badly for the last week because I did like EMDR, which is trauma therapy, where I just like opened up childhood wounds, and then I just felt really like uncomfortable, and I had a lot of self-loathing and negative feelings.
Yeah.
But this week I was really trying to push through until 2 days ago. I was in the kitchen and I was doing this thing where, like, do you ever feel like when you're depressed and you're really trying to have energy, when you have like little bursts, you have to take advantage?
Yes.
So I was trying to take advantage of a burst of energy I had before I had to go into work. So I'm cleaning. I had already cleaned this meat thermometer. Gabe, will you pull it up? I already like cleaned this meat thermometer. And I had put it away and it had dried. And I'm like mindlessly doing what I'm doing. I'm trying to like mentally prepare for the podcast. I'm over here thinking like, like finally I like got into the rhythm. It's been 5 days. I haven't been productive. I look over and it goes through my hand.
Oh my God.
Wait, what?
I just want you to know that the meat thermometer goes as easily into human flesh as it does into a bird.
Wait, what?
Or a steak.
Wait, I'm
like in like washing, like I'm washing things. I'm like grab this thing from the dry thing, and I just so happened it like flipped and just went boop into my hand. So I just pull it out. I'm like, and go to work. I called my doctor on the way into work, and they were like, this was yesterday, and they were like, or 2 days ago, they were like, oh, you have your tetanus shot, right? I was like, yeah. And that was that.
Do you have a thing?
Yeah, can we see the scar? Like, I mean, I can zoom in on it too. That's insane. And by the way, the meat thermometer was some weird format, so it wouldn't let me pull up.
It didn't even come up. It's fine.
Okay, so sorry about that.
Yeah.
But here we go. Hang on, I'm gonna zoom in on it.
But it's like hard to picture it because it doesn't look like it
would pierce your skin.
It would pierce your skin.
So, do you have a hole there or anything?
No, over there.
There's a hole. And then it didn't go through the other side, but it pulled the skin. Like this.
Oh, that's so gross. You're gross.
It was trying to pierce through my hand.
You're a fucker.
You're a gross person.
Skin.
How did it go through your hand, though? I don't understand.
Of course something fucking hardcore happens to you. Like, why?
I literally don't know how it happened. I picked it up with the care that I would use, like, with a knife or something. And I literally, it fell and went, boop.
Did you, no...
Shock.
Pain reaction?
Shock.
I think we need to intervene, Rachel. Like, there's
Pull it
no
out.
way that it just fell through her hand.
It's insane.
You had a moment. Yeah, she like had a break with reality or something.
twice
Like
if you
this
need
one.
help.
No, it was.
I'm gonna call the authorities.
It literally.
We're already on 10 today.
I went and did therapy after that. Like I gave somebody therapy,
Psycho.
and I was talking to them.
It's like
and
for me to call off the
I
day.
was having like flashbacks of the meat thermometer in my hand through the skin.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the worst day ever.
Bury the fucking lead, bitch.
I had to. I want to tell you on the pod.
fucking
Isn't that
did.
crazy?
That's fucking insane.
And then my boyfriend, he
Yo, cheers.
has a lot of
I'm
health
so
anxiety.
sorry.
So he made it worse. I told him, he's like, oh, God. You got to go in. You got to do the thing. You got to, like, he's like,
I love Jay.
Mr. Krabby. I'm like, no. I'm like, I think.
Had it been in the meat yet?
No, it was clean.
Wow.
It was clean. And I feel like I had talked about this with him and then with the nurse at the place I work, but I was definitely had a moment where I was like, if it was dirty, I'm going in.
Why are you always hurting yourself? Why?
I honestly feel, okay, this is really like,
this is a pattern.
yeah, it is.
No, she literally did this last fucking winter.
Not last winter. I broke my arm on accident because I fell. But I feel like when I'm more like depressed, I feel like my motor skills are delayed, which is a real depression thing. And I don't know how to slow down. I'm not good at slowing down.
Yo.
So I'm like doing everything at the same speed. Like I'm like getting
Yo.
bruises. I'm like slow
A parallel experience.
down. Like I finished loading the dishwasher after I wrapped my hand up. That's
course you did.
psychopath. That's psycho.
That is
Like,
psycho.
I'm dead serious. It's hard to believe you.
I know. I believe
it's not
it.
hard for me because like she's fucking hardcore.
But
Like,
it's
all the
Hardcore
time.
fucking weirdo.
dead ass. Second thing is I had super.
Wait. Can I just like juxtaposition how I get hurt versus how you get hurt?
Yeah.
She stabs a meat thermometer through her hand. I get off a couch after therapy and like roll my ankle.
It's bruised. It's not your
bruised.
ankle.
It's like
It's her
I heard-
midfoot.
I heard
It's
a
not her
crunch.
ankle.
I heard a crunch.
You get rich girl hurt. She gets like hood hurt.
Lazy girl hurt.
I broke my arm because I was parking outside in the winter last time at work because I didn't want to pay the money. And then
What?
I found the ice.
Hold on. Say that again?
No, show them the scar.
I was parking out. I was parking outside
Mm-hmm.
in the winter because I didn't want to pay the like $5 or whatever a day because I hate parking in the garage. It's cold. It's not like a cover. Like it's covered, but it's
It
not
actually-
heated.
yeah.
It's like actually a worse experience than just parking by the door and
And they're
going
creepy.
in. So I just like, I was parking outside and I slipped on the ice and I broke my arm and you heard it. Like I heard it go through and I was like,
Oh,
it was like a crunch.
oh my God.
And I just, my hand was like limp like this, like gimping. And I just
This
didn't.
bitch texted me and went, I just walked into work.
Well, what happened was I work at a hospital. So I walked to the ER.
To the ER.
Yeah, because I work at a hospital.
Okay.
So I sat in there crying for 2 hours. They made me wait 2 hours. They won't give you any meds until they decide if you need surgery.
Ugh.
And then
Oh my God.
They
Oh my
agonize
God.
they put me in a hand cast that holds your fingers like this because they had to pull my bones back into place. So they numbed up my hand, put me in a hand cast, popped it back into place. And then I had to come back after the swelling went down and they put a plate in my arm. I have a titanium plate in my arm.
You're fucked up. Is that a kink for you? Is that what this is? Have you ever seen the movie
No.
Crash?
Never.
People get in car
Oh my
accidents
God, we
and then
didn't
make love to
do
each other.
Welcome to therapy, rebrand, where we're consistently inconsistent.
Dang,
Dang.
we haven't done that for a long time.
Oh, I was gonna get the bell effect.
I know.
The second thing is that something really interesting came up in my supervision this week. So I was doing individual supervision with my Black supervisor, and we were talking about working with. I was complaining about my white supervision group, to be honest, and
As
so
you
then
should.
we started talking about like all the ways that accessibility is hard, and like the different things around like why it's difficult for different people to show up to therapy, and me just basically explaining my experience of at work trying to make my therapy more accessible for other people, and white people around me being like, but that's breaking the rules. And I'm like, but that's what I need to do. You know, like they would rather have somebody call off of work twice and come in for 2 60-minute sessions than do a 90-minute session or something like that. So we're
Literally.
talking about this and she brings up, she's like, you know what's something that people talk to me about, a lot of men talk to me about? And I was like, what? And she shared with me that a lot of men are afraid to process their rage in therapy
Yes.
because not just white women, all women, they think are going to be afraid or intimidated or call them crazy. Like if they
Yes.
were to share their like negative or angry thoughts about their partner or the people in their life, or they were to show the level of anger they have like in their body, whether that be to yell or stomp or anything like that, therapists freak out and are afraid.
I agree.
I agree.
And I was like, that had never occurred to me.
Oh, totally. I think about it all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I work with the men that I work with individually or in couples therapy. They like you can see the discomfort coming out of their bodies when they have to try and explain rage, and they have to do it in some way that's not going to like intimidate me. And it doesn't matter how much like cushioning I do. It doesn't matter how much kind of like, yo, I can handle this. Like, or even me like pushing them into it. Like, I bet that feels rageful for you. I bet you fucking hate that. Like, it doesn't matter how much I give. It's like they're
afraid.
Feels like they're protecting me. They can't get out of it.
I feel like they don't trust that you as a woman
Yes.
aren't gonna turn on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be like afraid.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're reading that wrong. It is just like it feels like you can get immediately
No, that's what I'm
judged and thrown
saying.
in jail.
No, that's what I think it is. They're like, if I show all the way, I have one male client who I've been working with for almost 3.5 years, and he acts like the man he wants to in session, and it's great.
Is he black?
Yeah. He's older. Once in a while, he still will. He'll once in a while he'll kind of apologize and be like, "I'm sorry, that was really crass," or that if he kind of says like a lot of expletives about women or something,
Like that bitch.
Yeah,
That fucking bitch.
or other things, and I'm like, it's really okay. Like I really don't. I don't.
It just was such an interesting part of therapy because I think what I realized this week around talking to my colleagues is that a lot of people don't think that there's like diversity and like giving therapy or diversity in how we fail people other than race and gender. Like people only think it's like race or like being
When you police people's
a
languages,
woman or being like your sexuality. Like they're like don't think past any of that. Like it's never occurred to them that therapy would be hard for men.
Ever.
Especially white men. It's never occurred to them. Like I think people think like
White men crumble.
It's the stigma or whatever, but I don't think anyone ever perceived white men as afraid.
Ever.
We never perceived them as afraid. So that was super interesting to talk about because I was like, this is a huge blind spot of mine. Like there are probably men in my session who are like secretly raging, and I'll point it out, but I never acknowledged like this must be scary for you.
And they have to be so careful all the time.
Yeah.
It takes forever to get men in couple sessions to believe that I really can handle like, pushing back against their wife or giving equal. Like I have to kind of prove it in a way, which actually is okay with me if I have to, like, that's what it takes to kind of build rapport. But it takes a lot for men to say that, like, don't fucking say that, or like I don't like that, or it makes me upset because it feels like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna team up against me?
Yes.
And I get it. It's not unlogical, I think.
I had somebody come in for family therapy, and the dad, when he came in, he was so guarded. He was so like, and he was actually even worse. He was a stepdad, so he was like, I'm
Where's
gonna
my
be
role in
attacked.
this?
Where's my role? And we ended up having like a really candid conversation, me, him, and the wife. And at the end of the conversation, he was like, I just want you to know that I came into this like completely afraid. He was like, I was terrified because I used to do this with my ex-wife. And at one point I realized my ex-wife was meeting with my therapist without me. And they like ganged up on me and then like took it, like went left on me. And I was like, oh my God, like it is in this real way. Like this is a
real lived experience.
I can see why men would only feel comfortable showing that level of rage with other men. And not feeling like that man is going to judge him or be afraid of him.
It's the safest thing in the world to do among other men. Like, that's a really weird thing, but it's true. Like, you can, I've never, and I'm not saying, like, I truly will never do this again because I learned that it doesn't work.
Right.
But to start bitching about your wife with another man around, it's that everyone falls in. I mean,
fills you up.
There's some guys who don't, right? And you truly look at them as like, you fucking weirdo, get out of here. But I wanted to ask, because I truly was surprised to hear this. What do you mean by you never thought white men are afraid?
I never considered that white men would be in a situation with a woman and be afraid. Like fear, yes. Like fear
afraid
exists.
physically?
emotionally, any of it. Like
Oh.
I
What
don't
does she
I don't
think
Wow.
perceive
what's gonna
them
happen
to
in this
be
session?
afraid. I don't perceive that. And that was I was like, oh, this is like a huge blind spot of mine. Because when I'm doing family therapy, I do see them as afraid, right?
Yeah.
But it's really different because the situation is like my kid tried to kill themselves. So they're afraid for them. They're afraid
Yeah.
for other people.
Yeah.
I'm seeing them in family situations have as
Yeah.
a helpless parent, but I don't do a lot of I don't do
Yeah.
couples really, unless
Oh.
it's about the kid.
And I don't do family, so I don't see that. That's so interesting.
So what I'm seeing all the time is men showing up like what will seal the deal on a session, like make a session the most impactful thing ever is like some dad from rural Minnesota who like works really hard for their family and like shows up by like providing and spending quality time with their son or something, but they don't do feelings, but they spend a lot of time together and that's how they bond. And their dad shows up and like cries. That will
Wow.
like seal the deal on a session.
Oh, that's
right.
couples.
Like, oh, I thought I was doing enough by just being
It's
here. I'm
shame.
really, really sorry.
It's
Like,
shame
I love
spiral.
you. And I don't know how to do this, but we'll do it together, you know? And then the son's
Oh,
like
it's- yeah.
hysterical, right? Like in a good way.
And every single couple session I've ever had, I'm literally saying every single one. It's so interesting that it's that because I think I don't do family, so I don't see kids often. Like in these sessions, I just see the couple component, and men will like cry really easily or shut down in a way that is very like emotive, and it's exactly what you said. They like can't or not can't, but because it's can't kind of connect to like shame, and often like their partners, their wives will often like want rage. Like every single kind of woman partner that I've worked with in like a heterosexual relationship has asked for a rage from their partner. It's like
Really?
they've like I would rather they're like I know that there's something in there. They can like sense it. Like he won't let it out at me. And it's not like it's not a fault thing. There's
Like they're like,
there's-
tell me you hate me. I know you hate me kind
well,
of thing.
well, it's like tell me anything.
Women.
It's tell me
Yes.
anything and I want it. Like they were like if you just like let out whatever it is, we
No,
can
that
work
makes
through it.
sense.
It's
I there's a lot of I work with actually at the end I'll talk about like rural mental health disparities because when I realized that people thought that like accessibility was only about race, gender, and sexuality, I was like, we need to be doing more work about this.
talk about it.
There's a lot of so we'll talk about it later in the thing, but like a lot of when you say that actually like a lot of women will say to me like, well, I'm like, well, what happens when, you know, kid does this and you're fighting with kid and all of that? And a lot of times they'll say like dad goes out to the garage and works for 5 hours.
He shuts down, he goes into his office, he goes into his study, he sits on the couch, or they'll be like he kind of half helps or something like that. But it's they shut down and they shut down under stress. And it's most of the men I have worked with in couple sessions are able to name that they're like, I just feel like I'm not doing it right, or I feel like I'm not doing it well, or I'm not doing it her way, or I'm gonna, you know, they usually say, you know, she's gonna do it better, right, or whatever, but there's this shame in that they don't know how to participate in a certain way in their own life.
Well, what I realized too, and this is something that I think a lot of women do is you're so resentful by the time you're asking for participation that if they don't do it 100% right, all you focus on is that they didn't do it right.
And then women are
not the effort. And then the guy feels shut down. He's like, I said that, like, you know, like they will say a whole paragraph of something that is like really helpful, you know, like they'll say 90% of it right. And the wife will be like, but that 10% you said is fucking wrong.
Stop reading my diary.
I'm just like,
oh, it's my favorite thing to call it in session. I've gotten thumbs up from husbands on the way out of the office.
they're like,
no, literally. Like, I had somebody
Yeah, you just ripped my life apart.
Yeah.
Like for
I know,
real.
it's like, I'm coming for your ass next time, motherfucker.
The TV's about to turn off in here. Not that it matters.
Oh, okay, I'll get it.
Okay. But no, it's a real like thing, and kids do it with parents, and parents do it to kids too. And I'll see it all the time. Like I'll see, you know, kids asking parents to show up for them, and then the parent shows up differently, and the kid rips them apart, and it's for a different reason because the kid's mad. But like a lot of times, by the time we're doing the work, there's so much anger and resentment to push through. Now it's difficult.
And people don't want to back off of their points. I wonder if that comes up in families too. Like it's like no matter how much
Do you know what I
comes back
do?
to these central things, and I'm like, this is now like I'm handing this over to you as your work. I'm not discussing this in my session anymore.
You know what I say to families sometimes? I'm like, I'll preface it once. I'll say, listen, I've noticed a lot in your family. You focus on the details. And the details are not where work's going to get done. Because when anytime something major is happening, because remind you, I'm in the hospital,
Run
right?
it back.
It's about the details. So like anytime there is, there's a major thing happen and all we're focusing on the details of who is right or is wrong, I say the details don't matter. I want to know how you felt. And so when people deviate off of that and they go back to their pattern, I will literally jump in and go, details.
That's a clip. That's a clip right there. That's
details.
Bars.
And sometimes people freak out at me and they're like, well, the details matter. And I'm like,
no.
Why?
Because you want to be right.
Your feelings are valid whether or not your details are right. So it's just really interesting.
It is very interesting.
And next thing we were going to talk about is Esther Perel, who's a therapist that is very famous and international and really intelligent, is trying to sell this game online and doing the thing that all therapists do where they're engaging in capitalism, which is okay. But she had this question come up.
I hope to eventually engage in it in that same way.
We are trying. She had this question come up that she answered herself very earnestly. And so I wanted to ask it to Rachel on the podcast and I'll answer it after.
Okay.
But the question is, so it's like you pull up a card. What would my ex have wanted to change about me? So what would your ex have wanted to change about you? You could go with this in a really kitschy way and say what he did was stupid, but something valid.
No. I'll give a serious answer. The kitschy answer would be he would like me to take him back.
Nope.
No. The real answer, this is from his perspective or what I really felt like I should have done differently.
Is there anything from his perspective that aligns with your perspective? Like where you're like, I could have did this better.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think I told little lies about how I felt, little lies about kind of like my motives for things in order to kind of, and whatever the reasons were, however I mitigated it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's not, that was my own stuff to deal with. And regardless, I wasn't ready to kind of, whatever the blowback was, whatever the thing was, I think I lied to myself and I think I lied to him about where I was at emotionally a lot of the times. And that wasn't helpful.
That's a great one.
And I think I'm pretty passive aggressive.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Not to me, but I witnessed it and I was like, woo.
No, we can't.
Woo.
It's jumping out.
I'm not going to do my last ex because he was a piece of shit. I'm going to do the dead ex. And I think the dead ex would have wanted me to be more empathetic. I think I really struggled in our relationship with cutting him slack. Like I had a really hard time when he like deviated from the norm or the pattern. And instead of being curious about like what was going on for him and why he deviated from the norm, I was just like, this is inconvenient for me and I'm irritated.
Do you feel like that ever pops up currently?
Yes.
Just like that feeling. Okay.
Yes. I think both my boyfriend and I have really strong personalities. And so I think there's a constant back and forth around like, no, this is normal. No, this is normal. No, this is this. Like yesterday I had said to him, like, you're really demanding. And he just went into why he was right. And I said, you could be demanding and right. Like the two aren't mutually exclusive. Like you could be right and be demanding, And so I think I really leaned on that a lot. Like
God,
I'm
you'd be a
right.
bastard to be in a relationship with. It's just, like I've never had an equal with like logic before, like that would really be tough.
Yeah.
You should have seen what she bullied me into today.
Yeah. Well, and him and I have really crude humor with each other. So like I think he said something back like you talk too much to like diffuse it and we both laughed.
Yeah.
But that was like my version. That was his version of you're right.
I think that's the best kind of relationship, actually.
Yeah. Where there's like the banter with some truth, but that's not like below the belt or low.
Like don't fucking crumble when I give you some shit.
Yes.
Like give it back to me or just like or like say it straight, but don't crumble.
Gabe, is there something your ex would have changed about you that's accurate?
So first of all, I ask this question to women on Tinder. like I've asked because I'm so uncomfortable with the repartee that I just go, I'm just going to interview you and ask you a bunch of uncomfortable questions. You pick what you want to answer, but I always put that one in. So I love that you're saying this. For me, yes, I believe that the thing that she would say, for sure would be,
that you would agree
I
with.
didn't grow. I have to agree with it?
You don't have to.
You don't have to, but it'll be more interesting.
Okay. No, that's fine. So if it's one that I agree with, I'm going to change.
Okay, go ahead.
And what I'm going to say is I did what I hear. Like, I believe there's an epidemic of this in our country, which is because of gender role kind of confusion. You start becoming, instead of being what women want, which is more of a strong, like, man, and, like, doing the inconvenient things like showing anger and, like, being kind of like tough like that with them.
Mhm.
You think that you're being a better guy by being nice and being retiring and being like fucking, and then starting to get
Passive.
henpecked. And then suddenly she's resenting you. And then suddenly you are just living your entire life trying not to piss her off. And she resents it and hates you for it. And I did that.
Yep.
And I can't believe I did that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I
And
have to try not to
yeah.
do that. That's my go-to also. That's a really big one for me, is that like, and that's where the little lies comes into.
Yeah.
Like, it's all coming from the same place of
Yeah.
like avoiding what you see as meaningless conflict.
Yeah.
I don't want
Yes.
to do this.
I
don't want to have meaningless conflict, so I'm just gonna tell this white lie.
There's one that sticks in my head about, there was like a pin that fell out of a table, or it was just like a household thing. It was
Mhm.
really minuscule. I remember him asking me kind of like where'd that go? And I
Mhm.
actually didn't know. Like I didn't know how the thing happened, whatever, but I knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you like? But I just could sense like there was just something. I was like, what are you talking about?
Mhm.
And I didn't do any, like, it wasn't, there was just this thing in this desk that just wasn't done or something.
But you knew the pin fell.
I knew the pin fell.
Yeah.
I knew it was out. And
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't know, show me. And he was like, what do you mean you don't know? And exactly as that happened, it just was off. He knew I lied. I wasn't
I
gonna,
feel like he knew it every time you lied.
every time. Oh, it was like a fight every time.
Yeah.
So it's those type of things, and it's not that it's right. I could have just said it, but it's just, it speaks to like something in the relationship.
But the truth of the matter is that if you would have got away with that, you would have avoided like an all-night fight.
Yes,
And that's like the real core of it, is like,
Mhm.
it's not actually a curious question, it's like an interrogation, and I like, I'm trying to pass the interrogation. But I've gotten past like the urge, like the thoughts to justify the lie. I don't really have that anymore, but what I do have is like my mouth gets dry, and like that physical feeling when you're telling the truth, knowing that it's going to be a negative thing.
Yeah.
You could feel it coming.
You're bracing it.
I'm going back to when I was a little kid and like telling the truth is a problem.
Yes.
Like I'm like back to that.
Mhm.
Like I'm like, oh, actually, like the physical like hurt of like, if I say I'm disappointed, if I say I'm upset, if I say whatever, like whatever the thing is, if I tell the truth about the grade, if I tell the truth about missing the class. Like, I remember being in high school and like lying so much in high school, and
Me
it was
too.
not because
Me
it was
too.
not
Me
because
too.
I was on sinister things.
No.
It was because like
Neither of us were
I
like the worst
couldn't-
kids ever.
I couldn't meet expectation, and so I was doing just enough to coast and meet expectation, and I was lying because I was doing a lot of like mind games with myself to fill in the gaps. Like
yeah.
I was missing classes some days and doing things like that, and like when they would call home, I would be like, I was there, I was just tardy, or like whatever the thing is. Like
They didn't
that
see me, whatever the
shit
thing is.
starts early. It's really hard to like unlearn, but it starts early with like lying in your life.
When you learn that people can't, like, don't really want to, they can't really handle the truth. I hate to say it like that. That's so
But
corny.
it's so true though.
You can't handle the truth in my Jack Nicholson voice. But
Yeah.
like people don't,
Yeah,
they don't really want to hear it. It jars them. And you pick up on that really early as a kid.
really early.
That's all I've been around with my whole life, and
Mhm.
it caused me to be a liar. Like I read a book from Sam Harris about on lying, and it's about what it does to you biologically. He's a biochemist or whatever, but yeah, it's fascinating because each one of those little white lies you store in the back of your brain, and it burns calories, and like you
Takes
are
a lot of
I
energy.
believe it.
it's crazy. And I've been trying to divest myself of that. And it's, first of all, Jave, I actually can't even imagine you being vulnerable.
I'm
Like,
so
like
vulnerable.
being genuinely like afraid, vulnerable
This is
like
like
that.
a theme through these episodes. I don't like it.
I like it though, because I actually think how Gabe talks about me reflects how people see me. So I like it.
I know, but
Oh, yeah,
I
for
bristle
sure.
at it because it's not it.
It is it, but God.
It's not.
Well, what it is that like I'm very open. So it's like I feel like people can't imagine like, but what's that like thing you're scared to do that you're gonna do? Like you're gonna cry and do the thing. And often I won't do the thing. But anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
I think like this with the lying thing and the being afraid, like I was a really afraid kid, and like I would like ask questions and then I would like cry silently to myself, or I would like cry in my room. Like I learned to self-soothe at a really, really young age because
Crying in the bathroom is my
parents were
go-to.
17. Like they didn't have capacity. They didn't have like that wasn't a thing. Like they weren't like
My parents were 35 and 37, they also didn't.
Sympathy like was not available, basically.
Right. And
Oh my
like my
God.
mom was like going to high school. Like, what are
Holy
we
shit.
talking about? Like, my
Holy
mom was
shit.
going to South High
Of
at
course
the
she was
daycare.
stressed.
Like, what are we
What are we
talking
talking
about?
about?
Like,
Wow.
my mom was at the U. My mom was at Augsburg. Like, if you like put it into context of like being a person.
Yeah. I can do the same thing with my mom.
And so it was just like not. And the reason why I know from my mom personally that it was an age thing is because I've watched her with my brother who's 15 years younger, and she has a shit ton of empathy and patience. So I know it's an age thing. Like, I can't be like, oh, it was whatever. You know, she decided to work on herself and do the things, but
Like seeing my parents show sympathy and be so warm with my kids is like a little bit like
is it a sting?
like I mean it's all positive actually.
Yeah.
But I notice it. You know what I mean? Where it's like
easier, right? Because they
Yeah.
get to tap in and tap out. It's not every
Yes.
day.
Yeah,
That's why they
yeah.
have capacity to do it.
Exactly.
yeah, and I mean tell me if this is common or for you guys, but what I learned in therapy that rung the most true for me is that when you have parents who give love inconsistently or not
Yeah.
unconditionally, that you get tuned into like sounds, which my therapist asked, like, do you hear footfalls when you're in the house? I'm like, oh yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, for sure, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
interesting.
and basically it's because you were waiting for the adult to come down the hall and you
Yeah.
wanted to manage their
Yeah.
reaction. So you learned to manipulate and lie, like to
Having a
set that
reaction to
tone
this.
so because you don't know
Spot
if
on.
it's going to be the scary one or the nice one.
And that's so my
And that's
so
very
my
true.
experience of that is
Time
like
for you to go get your social work license.
my experience of that
I'd
is
love to.
like I could go up to my parents and I could say the same thing on a different day and I will get a different reaction. And I feel like as a kid you want predictability.
Mhm.
It doesn't even have to be correct what they're doing, but you want to figure out like the formula to get your parents to love you and see you.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out the formula. And so I always
Still can't.
felt like I was struggling. And the messed up thing is as a small child,
I still
when we
can't.
would have long periods of things going well. As an adult, I now know that my parents' lives were going well. But I thought I was doing something right for long periods of time, and
Right.
that's what was happening.
Right.
And that was absolutely not what was happening.
Not
What was happening is that things were going well in the adults' lives, and so they had more patience for me.
They had more capacity.
But as a kid, I'm making up the story that because
I'm the reason.
it's me.
It's me.
I'm killing it.
Mhm.
Do you guys consider yourselves like more sensitive than other people?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
I do.
Do you think everyone thinks that way though, or not?
No.
No.
Okay.
I think some
'Cause
people
that's how I
pride
feel too,
themselves
but-
on their lack of sensitivity, actually.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
The next topic I wanted to talk about was the death penalty because Kenneth Smith was put to death this week in Alabama successfully through nitrogen gas, although it took over 15 minutes. So I don't know if we call that successful. We watched something from
Okay.
Democracy Now!
Yes, that
Where
was it.
the spiritual counselor that was working with Kenneth Smith gave a description
Which
of
was
what was happening
amazing.
in the room.
It was phenomenal.
So we literally could only listen to like a couple minutes of it, and then we were like both kind of physically sick.
Yeah.
But
Can you give the broad strokes of what the nitrogen, like what the difference is?
Essentially, they had tried to kill him like 3 years before, and with lethal injection, and it didn't work. And
Jeez.
Let me
like
interrupt
Steven
you,
Seagal.
Kate.
no, you do it. You
Can-
do it.
I know something about me feels like I don't even know if people. I mean, I know as a country we pretend we're not God invested, but we are. But like, isn't there a party that feels like God intervened and he just like does get to just like not die? That he lived through that. Just saying,
Yes.
he can just like stay
You
in
win.
prison
Do you wanna
forever.
actually know- do you want
and
to
you
know
have
what
to
struck me
not
about
die.
it? I don't know why.
Wait, hold on. I really want to say this about lethal
no, go for
injection
it.
before I
Yeah. No,
forget.
go for it.
So as I was doing my research, we always find out that the basis of all this bullshit is corporate, right? So the corporate basis of this really is that a lot of the suppliers who are giving us the lethal injection stuff are from Europe, and now
Yes.
they're banning them giving using those specific supplies for lethal injection.
It's
The
always
company's saying
money.
you can't do that.
It's
So
always
now
money.
they're trying to find another way to kill people that's cheap and effective. That's really what's happening.
That's really why.
But they're pretending it's about all this other stuff. But
If
that's
you wanna
really
see-
what's happening.
If you want to see some cruel, creepy, sociopathic shit, you should watch the governor. I don't even know the governor of Alabama's name, but him giving that press conference afterwards, I turned to Jay and I was like, yo, I don't know if anybody else has watched The Boys, but it's like
It is like The Boys.
it's like some like fascist not even post-apocalyptic. It's just like I was like, somebody saying
Basically,
this?
what he said was like, don't be discouraged by everybody calling this inhumane. This is a cheap, ineffective way to get it done. So
More
basically
states are
what
doing
happened was
this.
that it took 15 minutes for them to stop giving the gas and wait to pronounce him
I'm
dead.
biting my cuticles. This
And
is
what he
like-
described is that he first started making sounds of discomfort and then his body started convulsing. And
I'm gonna take
then
my
we
headphones
fast forwarded because it was too much. But his body was convulsing in pain. And I said
And
this
he
to
made a heart shape to his family.
before,
Oh
yeah.
my God! Why'd you say
I
that?
had to. I'm so sorry. You had to live in it with me.
That's so
What I
bad.
said to Rachel, which is like a horrible comparison, I don't mean
Oh.
it genuinely, but I do mean it in my heart, like in a way of like connect the dots, you'll
Yeah.
get it. But like we literally, when we put dogs down, we let them go to sleep first. Why are we not doing this
Why
for
are
humans?
you doing this?
I would
Why
rather be
would you
killed
do
by
that?
Freddy Krueger than fucking get whatever that dude endured, or even the
Oh.
chemical. Like, have you ever
But
read about
Can I
like
just tell
Yes,
you-
the
but
lethal injection?
I just want to know why we're not putting people
This
to
is
sleep. Like, is it
because
intentional
we're-
torture?
Yes.
How-
Yes.
you-
People are weird. White people are. This is. I'm so
This is
sorry.
white shit.
That
It's
was
okay.
Some white shit.
It's
Like,
okay.
oh my God. Like, and I don't even know why this. 58.
It really bothers you.
It really bothered. Like, I don't. And that's It doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 99, and that you should not be fucking put to death like
Having a
fucking
horrible
dog.
death at 99 feels different than 58. But
It
yeah.
does, but it's just like 58 is.
I only had 4 more days.
Yeah,
Could you
literally.
just-
Yeah.
Let me-
No, literally.
like for real though, can you imagine making that walk down the hallway, knowing
No.
that date is coming? No, I mean it would
Twice. Imagine them fucking up, and you have to go back. Like you went through it being in your veins. Like they can I like? Is it too vulgar for me to say?
What?
Like they tried to like put it under his collarbone. Like imagine that.
be.
Like
So
Oh.
have you guys ever read about lethal injection? Like what that is though, with the phenobarbital or whatever it's
No.
called?
well, that's part of what they were saying too. Is that like
that's also nightmarish.
they were also saying like it's also torturous to do the injection, but at least the injection's shorter. I'm not saying that it's better, but like 15 minutes of
Let me say this
we are
one
the-
thing though
we are
about
the
it.
Go
First
ahead.
country to do this.
Without being graphic, but there's just one thing I'll say, is that they are technically asleep, but the person is conscious conscious
I knew
of what
that.
is happening
I knew
within.
that.
So they're
I didn't know
locked in
that.
their body because it paralyzes their muscles, and that
knew
makes it
that.
better for us to look at,
yeah, it's
not for them.
I knew that.
That's
And that's where
ghoulish.
that's where I'm saying though about like we
Ghoulish.
can put you to sleep for so many things. Why are we not putting people to sleep? So when I
We
looked
think
at
they
this,
Shoot 'em in the head.
We think we deserve. People think that they
Firing
deserve
squad.
it.
If you
Firing
could
squad.
choose between lethal injection, electric chair, shoot in the head, would anyone pick not shoot in the head?
it's
shoot in the head.
if you were the person administering the kill, what would you want?
Well, what they do though is they have the thing where they have like 7 rifles and they all
Yeah.
pull the trigger and
I
no one
know.
knows of those people who did it. So
But you do know.
you think so?
You
Yeah.
know you contributed. I mean, I think you
How many
still go
people
to
have you
sleep.
shot? No, I don't know.
3.
About to be one.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was my question to Rachel. Would you want your murderer put to death?
No.
Would you want your child's murderer put to death?
Yes.
I don't know. I actually when I
No,
was in,
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. But so when I was in high school, I had a religion teacher whose daughter was raped,
Oh my.
and the person went to jail, and they had the opportunity to for it to be like not death penalty, but something really serious. And she always talked about it. Was really weird that she talked about this in front of a bunch of freshmen.
This is the worst episode we've ever done, by the way. I'm squirming.
I love it.
It's great,
This
but-
is my favorite shit. But like she was like, I had to forgive him. I had to forgive him. And I like never got it.
You don't have to forgive. There's a lot
You
of space
don't
between
have to
death
forgive.
and forgiveness.
You don't have to
a
forgive.
lot of space.
But I don't at this point in my life,
It's a lot.
I really I don't want somebody else to fucking die. It's also like not a worse. I mean, it is.
I think living in prison would be, well, I don't know.
Living in prison is pretty fucking bad.
I would rather kill them. Like if someone took my child
You
and
know
kill
what's
like
funny?
that,
I
I'd like
actually, if it was like community killing, I would be okay with it, but not like a state sanctioned one. Like if the community was like, yo, this person doesn't deserve to live in this fucking community. Like either banish
to. Yes.
them, put them on house arrest, beat their ass every day for the rest of their lives. Like do some shit like that. Like make it torturous for them.
I disagree with all of that.
I
But
don't know.
I understand the sentiment.
You
I
know what I
understand the
mean?
feeling, but I just like it's because of my lack of trust of other humans that the death penalty bothers me, including like a community thing. It's like my
Mhm.
I think of that and it sounds so valid. And then I think about
People
it
don't work like that.
being abused. Like immediately my next thought goes to like some woman being like,
lashed.
he raped me and actually she got dumped and now we're community killing this guy. Like that's the next thing I go to.
Yeah,
It's not even
totally.
that necessarily death isn't always the correct punishment, but I just don't think in humans' hands it's really where
Yes.
it needs to be. And that's like the issue for me is
And
the
people
fear
really
like
want to play God.
one wrong person that we killed is enough for me. Like I personally am feeling like
And to like, I'm going to do it again. There's been so many wrongfully convicted people, but Black men specifically, who I'm just like, I can't be another one. I can't take another one, bro. Like enough have done it for like the rest of us. I can't do it.
so I was like, how does this relate to us? And where it relates to us is like mental health. So I was like, can somebody with like a disability be put to death? Like, can you get the death penalty if you have a disability? And the answer is kind of.
You can.
So you can't be put to death if you have a low IQ. So if you are
What
like
is a low IQ?
under 70. So if you'd be considered
Just fail the
It was
test.
me today.
you
I don't know.
have an under
I don't
70,
know.
I promise you. You're probably sitting at 120. That's a big compliment.
Me?
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm higher. I know mine.
What is yours?
I took the test. 136.
Did you
Liar.
take it as an adult?
No, I did take it as an adult. Like I took it when I was like, I
It's
don't
less valid as an adult. That's why I asked.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I took it as an adult. Can't lie.
I also was in the 130s and I'm like, it's giving bullshit. Okay. So
Yeah, I don't actually
I
like
love you so much.
put stock in it.
it doesn't matter because I know you're intelligent. And basically IQ is measuring intelligence, but it's really measuring problem solving and flexibility.
Yeah, I know
which is
what
what
the
you're
fuck it
very-
is.
But this
Like,
but,
I want to- no.
We weren't
but the
sure for a
audience
second.
doesn't.
No,
None of
I
you
know. I was
personally
just
offended.
joking.
He's
I was
still
just,
pissed
yeah.
about the 120.
I was slighted by that for sure.
No, but like average is 100. Did you know
I thought
that?
you said average is 1.
100.
No, you said you paused
100.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Average is 100 on the bell curve, and then
Uh-huh.
it's like 10 each way. So it's
Yeah.
90 to 110. So that even saying 120 is well above average.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know what it
anyways,
is.
so intellectual disability, and I was saying this to Rachel earlier because I was being facetious, but I also kind of mean it. So like, if I was the therapist assessing a murderer, could I be like, yeah, 72, fuck it, hit the death chamber? Like the degree of separation feels ridiculous. To
That's
me.
insane.
That
Like,
like you could be 1, 2, 3, 4 points off, and like people are dying. You know what's crazy is that's what happens with me with services. I work with people who have basically an intellectual disability, but they're 1, 2, or 3 IQ points off, and I can't get them support or services, and they have to navigate the regular world like regular people. Horrendous.
I thought IQ tests were very like discredited. You know, like I mean, I didn't believe they were a consistent measure or like an accurate measure because there's so many facets of intelligence. How can they base social service? Like, I guess what else do you base it on? I mean, do you have any suggestion?
They're trying to.
I
eliminate
actually
people.
don't have a suggestion, but I just think that like there should be flexibility
Based on looks.
around
No.
around like ability to function in the community. Because I even think somebody with a 70 IQ who has a really supportive parent versus a not supportive parent, or people with money that can get them like tutoring and stuff, has a different thing than other people.
If you really want me to take it there, you might push back your ability to perform whiteness.
Yeah.
It is, but also I think that
I'm being a little bit like.
but also I
extra,
think there's
but-
plenty of people who have like poor white parents who can't perform. So I also
yeah,
it's like it's
totally.
more about like, can you fit into the system? But regardless of whether you can fit into the
Yes.
system or not,
Yes.
if you are having an IQ that's really close to an intellectual disability, you are going to get support, but you're not going to get that label. And I just think that that's interesting because it's such a gray area to cut off and be like, these are the people we can kill as a state
Imagine
for their behavior. If you're
Crazy.
under this, we can't kill you as a state for your behavior. But if you're above this line, we can kill you as a state for your behavior. I mean, I think that's super interesting.
it's really interesting, and it's kind of the basis of a lot of like, I don't even know why this is popping up, but like crime shows, you know, like True Detective, which is like a new one out, or there's like, what is it called, like Cold Case. There's like some other ones that are like procedurals kind of,
Mhm.
and it's people that are, it's like the creepier they are, kind of the more quote unquote mentally ill they are, and they always die.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really has a connotation of like mentally ill people who are either psychotic or have psychosis or in some way deserve to die.
I think it's how much fear they inflict in the general public.
Mm-hmm.
Like, basically,
and.
do they feel, terrifying?
Yeah. I think it's, do you feel terrifying and do you feel capable?
Yeah.
I think people, if they read you as capable, they're like, he's bullshitting. So the second
And are you
criteria is like,
participating?
if you have a mental illness, they can kill you. Like if you did something, right? So the thought is that the court's supposed to take it into consideration if you're mentally ill, but there's nothing illegal if you're in a state where they do
Wow.
like the capital death penalty. And I looked this up in detail. We'll go through this afterwards. But the thing that was wild to me is that you could have schizophrenia, something where you're actively hallucinating often, and you could still get the death penalty. That's wild. The third one is insanity, which I think we all know about. If you can prove that you were, quote, clinically insane in the moment.
What is clinically insane?
You didn't know what you were doing. You had to prove that you didn't have a concept of what was really happening.
You don't
basically.
know if
That's like
you-
the summed up
It's like you
version.
don't know what's going on. You don't know if you committed a crime or not. You don't understand what's going on.
Or even like I blacked out. He killed
Yeah.
my daughter, and then I walked in on him raping my daughter, and I
It's
blacked
criminally
out.
insane, yeah.
I mean, I was
I blacked
insane.
out. That's such a wow.
Yeah. But people buy into that, right?
Mhm.
And there is some truth to seeing red
There is.
in the moment. For sure. So like whatever. But those are the three. And I just thought those were really interesting because I don't know why there's a big distinction between being low IQ and hallucinating or not being in reality or not like functioning in a certain way.
Well, tell us why.
What do you mean?
I feel like it's because people are scared of certain things. We criminalize what we don't understand or what we are scared of in a really in a very literal like human way. When we don't look at our movies, look at our horror movies. It's all people who are like under psychosis or under like on drug. Like it's like there's some sort of like and now like in horror movies they bring in like the mental health thing or they bring in some sort of thing that like makes people with persistent and like serious mental illnesses scary. And I think we looked for it. We don't want them in society.
So why?
Yes. There's a place for that, right?
We don't want them in society. And I do think that often people who have intellectual disabilities are seen as non-threatening. Like you think of somebody who's like low functioning with Down syndrome or something, and you're like, oh, they're just happy to be there and whatever and blah, blah, blah.
Infantilizing.
And that's how really people look at them.
Yes.
Seriously.
No, you're right. You're right.
And so I think that's part of it. But the fact that, because mind you, we're talking about the legal system. And so there are people with like mental health based degrees that are deciding these things, and they're sitting down and they're deciding
That's crazy.
that this person, you're supposed to be a therapist or you're supposed to be a psychiatrist, and you're sitting down and you're deciding that this person's schizophrenia wasn't negatively impactful enough for that to be why. They had delusions about their neighbor trying to kill them. And so when they stabbed their neighbor, that didn't play into it. It's just wild that people in our field are making these decisions and these distinctions.
And sleeping at night.
And the rules just seem arbitrary. So
what about for school shooters where their existence can be a symbol of inspiration for others, like especially when they're allowed to speak to media and stuff like that?
But
go to jail for life.
Go to jail for like killing them is not the it is.
But they know that like they do inspire more like copycats.
But I think that they don't mind dying. That's the point. Like they're ready to go down in a hail of like bullets. They're ready to like. That's kind of part of the ethos of it.
But a lot of them live. Like I mean, clearly, like they do. A lot of school shooters.
Don't say their names.
Sorry, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We don't say their names because
that's the point. No, I know.
That is the point.
That is
yeah,
she
I know.
asked. But
that's the point I was trying to make, and then I broke it.
You could even you don't have to name them, but I just meant like
well, you said.
I think we do have empathy for school shooters, but I think I'm talking about people who are in delusion. Like you're delusional about what's happening. Like you're not in reality.
Isn't almost anyone who kills someone delusional?
No.
People feel righteous in killing off.
No, they feel justified.
Sure. No, that's
I'm talking about like schizophrenia. Oftentimes, like if you're killing someone, it's because you believe that they're putting you in danger in a real way. It's not vengeance.
Yeah.
School shooters are vengeance. Like that feels like punitive and different.
Feels like misguided in some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's vengeance.
But I was looking at like all these different, so on deathpenaltyinfo.org, there's like all these different like situations of people who have been like killed, even though they had like a severe and persistent mental illness. And those are really interesting to me because there's such a case by case basis, but also there's just a part of me that's like, how is you as a person in this field who's supposed to be showing up for clients are sitting down and deciding that they're fit to be killed?
People don't care about their jobs and they don't care about
We're
being therapists.
always negatively in the system. We're always doing something wrong.
We're
It
always fucking
feels
up. We're always fucking up.
like, for one, James Willie Brown was executed in Georgia on November 4, 2003. Mr. Brown's schizophrenia caused him to experience hallucinations and believe that voices of God and demons directed his actions. He was admitted to Central State Hospital several times, beginning in 1968 after being arrested in 1975 for the murder of Brenda Watson. Brown was diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic, blah, blah, blah. And he was treated for 5 years before being real. This is the worst part. Was treated for 5 years before being ruled competent to stand trial. So that means he wasn't competent when he came in, probably. And if he wouldn't have gotten all those meds, he wouldn't have been able to stand trial. But because they treated him for all those meds, he was in a good state of mind.
They coached him up to get killed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And this is something where I'm like, oh my God, we are participating. Huh?
Don't read another one.
Okay. But like, we are participating in this. We are doing this. There was another one that I'm not going to read, but that just basically said something similar of like somebody tried to appeal on the grounds that prior to being in prison and actually getting medication from the inpatient, like the prison psychiatrist, that they actually were having delusions and they were not fit to stand trial and that they wouldn't have been fit and they still got executed. So just another reminder
we
of
are
how
literally the first nation in the entire existence of the world ever to use this fucking gas.
Yeah.
That is insane.
It's macabre.
Macabre. Exactly.
All right. And then last but not least, I really wanted to mention this earlier, but I really wanted to touch on the rural mental health care because I feel like often what happens is that people really feel like therapy is made for white people, but it's made for middle class and functioning white folks, not for white folks who are poor and a lot of rural, at least Minnesota has a lot of poverty. When I look at like the rural mental health statistics, we're also failing them, which I think is important to name because we're an accessibility podcast. So 3/4 of rural counties lack a psychiatrist, 20% fewer primary care physicians than in urban areas.
What does rural mean?
It means less than
country.
2,500 people in the town or area.
Oh, I didn't know you had a real definition.
I did. I did. I looked it up. It's less than 2,500 people. And let's see, 81% do not have a psychiatric nurse. Nearly 3 in 10 rural Americans do not have broadband internet. So the internet thing was really interesting to me because one of the solutions that we've been trying to come up with in the mental health field is that like, well, rural counties, people in rural America don't have access to mental health because there's not enough people there, but we're just going to do telehealth. We're just going to do virtual services, which also lack in a lot of ways, but we're just going to do virtual services. And that's how we're going to make up for this gap. And we don't have to really think about this because therapy is tailored to white people anyways. And a lot of rural America is white, which isn't even fully true. And so people have all these kind of preconceived notions about like the issues that come with working with those populations, and they're often like super wrong. And when I think about like the internet piece, you can't solve that issue with telehealth. And so like it just was interesting to me because when I was reading and learning a lot about kind of like, I got this from somewhere called like ruralminds.org, and it's this person who's actually in rural New York. And they've been doing all of these kind of talks around accessibility. And just like in other communities, in the rural community, one of the main things that are an issue are access and stigma. There's a lot of stigma around like not being independent. Like a lot of folks are raised, especially in farming communities, that like you're supposed to be self-reliant. And so there's a lot of shame around accessing services. Again, just calling myself out because like when I think we have been taught a lot like, oh, this is made for all white people, and it's not. So that was super interesting.
And I do think of ruralness as like whiteness, as like white poverty in some way.
And then the other thing was like talking about how people, if they go in person to see like a therapist or whatever, likely there is going to be overlap and it's going to be somebody in town that they know or know of. Like
There's
if you're living
rules.
in that small of a town and you're that small of an area and you're driving, even if you're driving 30 minutes, like the likelihood is that you're going to see somebody else you know.
You grew up with them or they whatever. And I guess there's different ethical rules for therapists that live in smaller towns.
There is.
Like they get to, there's there's not the same kind of ethical standards because you might know somebody who you grew up with, or you might know somebody who's married to so and so. Like, there's not as much kind of confidentiality, actually.
And not only that, but people were discussing, because I was watching interviews and people were talking about like even parking my car in the therapist's office. Like, I don't have anonymity. Like, I drive everywhere I go, and I don't have like I
People know
can't
my
be
car.
anonymous because people know my car. Like, it's this, like, it's the best thing about being in a small town is that everybody knows each other, and the worst thing about being in a small
Everybody knows each
town is
other.
everybody knows each other, right? And so it was just really interesting, and I'm trying to like fit this in at the end because we've been going for a while, but I really was like, there's blind spots everywhere in this field, and it just felt like a humbling moment to really like look into all the ways that we as a field are failing.
I have a little bit of a question for you. I know we're at the end too, but like, and this is way too much of a binary. Do you think for urban kind of healthcare or mental health care versus rural healthcare,
It's
mental
better.
health care?
It's better. I work with a lot of rural populations, and that's why I'm so big on like telehealth. I'm like the only person in my therapist group who's really into telehealth, but I just feel like if somebody's 90 minutes away, asking them to drive up is a big ask.
Mhm.
And a lot of the people I'm working with, like, it highlights the issue so much. Literally, like, probably 50% of the people I work with are from rural Minnesota, and they got brought here because they needed a higher level of care, or, you know, in Duluth it was full, or
And
St.
Rochester's,
Cloud, or
like, it's full.
Rochester. And Rochester's, yeah. And a lot of people I'm working with are like central and northern Minnesota too. So it's just kind of like what I notice. I forgot the question.
Which one? It's kind of which one do you think is better? I guess, or which one is more
Urban.
Yeah,
Urban. What I noticed
there's
is
more
that
resources.
people are. Oh, what I was gonna say is we're working really hard when you come to the hospital. Not only are we trying to stabilize you, but we're trying to set you up for success after. And usually, there's not a lot to give people after. We don't really have much to give you after. Like, there's a lot of kids who are going to like programs that urban kids go to, and they're busing an hour to get there. And like, yes, your insurance company will pick you up and all of that stuff, but like, who wants to take an hour cab each way to go to therapy?
Most people don't.
Most people don't.
I just want to say that urban is our word. Okay, so please don't say that.
we can take your words when we want to.
Okay, fine.
Anyways, this has been Therapy Rebranded. If you want more of us, please follow us on Patreon. We have a lot of content on there. We're way more open and
Talk about our
vulnerable,
personal
and we
shit.
meet every single week.
We do. It's fun. We meet in my bedroom, actually.
We do.
And good new theme song.
Thank you.
But I still wanna turn up. Yeah, I still wanna turn up. All I want is to go again. But you ain't picking your phone up. Why you messing my head up? Any night, any day, let me take you away. All I need is just saying yeah, 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 yeah. Better nights, better days, when you're here with me, babe. 'Cause you're all that I crave, so I wonder.
MBC. No relation to NBC.